Have you ever used the DevTool to mess around with the design or try out some changes in CSS, trying not to forget what you've changed so that once you get it to the place where you like it, you can take those changes and then you can put them in the real CSS file, in your real code file? I do that all the time. And I think many of us have just gotten in the habit of, you make 3 or 4 changes, but you really try not to make too many because at some point you're not going to be able to remember what they are. But wouldn't it be nice if you had a dev tool that would keep track of those changes for you and give you a really easy way to grab all of them and put them into your code when you're ready? Well, Firefox Developer Tools has exactly that kind of tool. Let's look here at a website. We're pretending that I'm designing this website. Come in here and maybe someone has said, oh, let's make this a different color. Let me find my H1 rule. I'm going to change it into some sort of a blue-green color, perhaps. Make sure it's a good color contrast, something kind of nice and bright. Maybe decide to make this more bold in order to provide even more contrast. And then, okay, well, what are the changes? If you notice here, I've got 3 panes in my developer tool. If you don't have that, you can click this little icon here, and it will take the rules panel, the CSS panel, and put it in the middle with HTML on the left, and then put all these other ones over on the right, including this newer one. It's not really new, but newer one, new to 2019, the changes panel. And I can see in here a list of the changes that I've made. I added this color rule, and I changed the font weight rule from 375 to 900. I can grab this and now put it in my code. How am I going to do that? Well, there are a couple ways. One, the first one you might think of is just highlight it and copy it and come over to your CSS file and paste it. And what you see is we just sort of pasted exactly what you see here with the pluses and the minuses. And this might be very handy if you want to send it to somebody and have them clearly understand what's going to happen. It looks a lot like a gist on GitHub or some sort of a pull request. If you've used version control, this is familiar to you and this might be helpful. Another possibility is that we're going to come over and hover until this button appears that says copy rule. And if I click that, then I can come over and see that actually what this did is copy the entire CSS rule. You notice that it didn't just include the 2 things I changed, font weight and color, but it included all of the CSS properties that are involved with this particular H1 rule. It didn't include everything for H1 everywhere. It just included the ones that are being affected by the change that I've made. This particular set of properties, this particular selector. This is pretty handy. I could say, come into my real code and say, okay, well, I know from looking at it over here that it's on line 25. I come over here, here's line 25. I'm just not going to worry about picking through all the little details. I'm just going to highlight the whole thing and paste in the new one and know that I've got the changes that I wanted. The other option, and let's say we actually also changed some other stuff. Let's move this to a separate window so we can see our layout. Let's go over to the layout panel. We'll turn on CSS grid. I can come up to where the grid container is, and I can see that this is sort of a symmetrical layout, and I don't really like that. So let me come in here, change my 1FR to a 2FR, and now I can have kind of an asymmetrical layout. I'll turn off the visualizer, the grid inspector itself, and see that, okay, now I like the way that looks. All right, so let's go back to our changes panel, and now you can see that we've got some changes as well for article. I'm going to go ahead and say copy all changes, come over to my blank CSS file where I'm showing you things, and I can paste. And here you see that it's given us quite a bit more information. So the rules that we're deleting, these property value pairs that we're deleting, are now commented out as a way to signal this code doesn't run anymore. We've commented it out, so if you just sort of paste this straight into a CSS file, that code won't run. The new code, the real code, the code that should apply is here without any comments on it at all. And we can see up here that there's a little bit of information about what file this is. You can see, in fact, that these changes are being made in a file called 01-005c.css, which is my silly name of this file that I've got going here. Maybe there's a whole lot of changes from different CSS files, and the copy all changes will go ahead and just grab the entire set, no matter how many there are. There could be a lot of changes in a lot of different files, and it will just give you all the information that you or your team might need to help you figure out where to put these changes. A couple different ways, 3 different ways to grab this code. Otherwise, in some ways, this is a fairly simple tool. You come over to this tab, you see a list of changes. That's what it does. If you have other requests, ways in which you would like it to work slightly differently, ideas you might have about how to better integrate it with version control systems like Git, drop some requests in the comments for this video. The folks who make this dev tool are going to keep their eyes on it and take all that feedback into account when they redesign the next version of the tool.